Hi, and welcome to Decoding AQ, helping you to learn the tools, mindsets, and actions to thrive in an ever-changing world.
Good morning and a warm welcome to our listeners. Today on Decoding AQ, I'm proud to welcome Dr. Johanna Dahm. She is the CEO of Dahm International Consulting, and Johanna is a leading expert in decision-making and leadership, with over 2 decades of experience in researching, advising, and publishing on effective decision-making strategies. She's renowned for helping leaders navigate the complexity and uncertainty of work. And in fact, she was recommended for the show by a mutual friend of ours, Olga. And my language, as I said before, is quite not one of my strong points. So I'll do my best to pronounce her surname, but Troeger, is that how you pronounce it, Johanna?
Well done, well
Close.
done.
And I'm thrilled to have you share your insights to the show. So welcome, Johanna.
Thank you very much. And sorry for I recorded your introduction because I have to prove it to Olga that I'm in your show because she told me you have to go there. You have to go there. So thank
Well,
you very much for having me. I'm so proud, Ross. Thank you very much.
that's all right. It's an absolute pleasure. And, one of the reasons, I'm asked sometimes, why do I do the show? And I said, I just find it so fascinating to meet people from all around the world and learn their stories, their experience, share with some of our listeners, my mum and a few others, what actually is happening in the world, what's going on, and to help people just navigate life in an effective way. And I'd like to start us off actually with quite a deep question, if I may, around decisions. And a lot of us find it challenging to make decisions, and decidre, to cut off, to say no to, of the origin of what are decisions. But then also, when we make them, how do we communicate them effectively? Because often it might be, I've made a decision, but I don't know quite how to tell this person or how to get people on board. And I know you've done a lot of work in this area. So perhaps you can just give us a few starting points for how do you make decisions and how do you communicate them effectively in business?
Big questions for the beginning. Thank you very much. And I like it, by the way, to dig deep in the very beginning. So talking about plans is the most fashioned way. Yeah, I talk about my diet. I talk about stop smoking or whatever. Yeah, but doing is the thing we struggle most often with, and that's with decision. It's always the same. If you go into a company and as a consultant, as I am, and ask the CEO or the CTO or whomever, what is the plan? What is the decision for maybe the next year or the next 10 years? They always talk about plans, but not about decisions. If you go into a meeting, there's a much of blah, 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 but what's losing, it's decisions. Yeah. Nobody talks about decision because if you communicate a decision, it's go into the minutes. Yeah, it's going into the protocols, and you can come back to those who make the decisions and say, hello, there was a decision, now you have to deliver. Yeah, and that's the issue with decisions. A decision without delivery is just a plan. Yeah, so it's always nice, at the end of the year, maybe on Sylvester or then New Year's Eve or something. Yeah, what's the plan for the next year? It's so nice. Yeah, maybe a holiday or a retreat, or I start with a yoga or something. Yeah, but there's no decision. Decision without the delivery is just a plan, and that's why we don't like to communicate about decisions. Yeah, because we can be fixed by that.
And it's interesting, isn't it? In terms of, when we make a decision, I know from my own experience, I get quite exhausted from making decisions. It's challenging to make some commitment to what we don't do as much as a commitment to what we do. And throughout your own career, starting at Accenture, then a long time at Novartis, how were decisions made there? Were there certain principles, certain methodologies, or was it a bit ad hoc depending on who was making them? What was your experience as you were entering
Yeah.
in your early stage careers? What did you observe?
Yeah, interesting question, because I think it's also depend on where you are. So in cultural point of view, geographical point of view, um, actually, I'm very concentrated on the German market, and international working people know that Germans are very special, yeah. And companies like Amazon also, they design their landing pages especially for the German market and the rest of the world, because we are so much sticking in research, FOMO, and so. So I started my career in Germany with Accenture, and there was much conversation, discourse, meetings before a decision is made. Yeah. So people spend so much time on talking, and then there was a decision, but it was more like a pre-decision maybe, and then the decision was tested, then there was a pilot, the pilot, you know, was analyzed, and then it was maybe rolled out or not. So it was more like an engineering way of making decisions. Yeah, when I started my international career, so I first went to Switzerland. We first discuss behind the meeting, then in the meeting we just make the decision, then we started just doing delivery. Yeah, we had a time frame, then we made the analysis of the pre-decision, then we rolled it out, and it was done. Because in Switzerland, you know, people are very efficient in terms of money. You know, they always want to make it small in terms of scope, and then people are more or less content, or also with 80%. You know, it's not to be perfect, it's just have to be done. Yeah, when I looked for a flat in Switzerland, I was amused because my contract was on a one pager. If you rent a flat in Germany, you have 28 pages or something for renting a flat. You know, you have an appendix, and then you have to make money to let that by the renter, etc., etc. So a one pager, again, 28 pages. So that's a difference. Do you know what I mean? Then for Novartis, where I came with a headhunter, I first stayed at the headquarters in Switzerland. Then I also moved to the US, where it was an entrepreneurial spirit. So, you know, as you might know, decision making was state of the art within the Labor Day of everybody. So you didn't need a boss or a team lead or somebody to make decisions. Yeah, you just decide what are your priorities. Then you make maybe a meeting about your priorities. Then you go and deliver again. Yeah. I also moved to Mumbai. That was a very nice experience, because there was only talking within massive teams. Yeah, and there were action and talking and maybe a decision, but you also had to go to the very big boss. Then you dedicated it down to the crowd. Then it was up and down and up and down, and at the end of the day you did something, but you was not sure if it was decided or maybe a crowdfunding way of making decisions. Yeah, so I would say it's cultural dependent how to make decisions. Yeah,
It's interesting, isn't it, when we think back and we reflect on the experiences we've had, and we look at it through a specific lens. So if we look at this lens of decision making and what adaptations had to happen. So when you moved from Germany to Switzerland, and what did you need to adapt? What did you need to change in your methodology in order to be efficient, effective, or fit? And then a difference again, working in the US to working in India, about what's your environment that you're in. And I think there's this constant kind of playful poetry of work, right? Between, is it hierarchy? Do we decentralize things? Are we looking for holacracy, where we will put these principles in place and then anyone has the authority to make decisions? And the fear of making a decision, because we could either be the hero or the scapegoat, you know, of certain things that, well, the pressure of making a decision. I don't want to. I want to make sure I've involved everybody. I've, you know, got my back covered. I've documented everything I know this is going to be right. I've got an instinct about it. Away we go, and we'll learn as we go and be comfortable with, it was never a wrong decision. It was the right one at that time, but we were given permission to make a new one today or tomorrow. And what I've observed, and I'm interested in some of your research, is has decision making evolved as the speed of work and the speed of change is impacting? Because I know that you specialize a lot in VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environments that we're now working in. What's changed, what's different, and what's the same in making decisions in that kind of environment?
Yeah, I love what you say also in terms of how you be introduced in steering the change or modeling the change as an maybe as a team lead or as a chief of HR or whatever your role might be. And I think that's the biggest change before and after. So when I took these big roles, it was maybe in the beginning of the 2000s, so 2005, 2006. That was my starting point. Then I moved into the big roles and had the international responsibility. But I struggled sometimes, with the introduction of my roles. Yeah, sometimes it was you have the power, you are responsible for, and nobody told me just to step in, to listen, to understand. And I think to adapt, and that's why I love it what you say, to adapt change and to drive change is always to adapt with people to new situations. Yeah, and you as the driver or you as the responsible person, you have to adapt the most to understand. Yeah, and to understand first you have to listen. Yeah, and if you are a newbie, maybe coming from the university or in the very first years, you just drive in with this backpack, with these responsibilities. You are the driver, you have the main role, you have to drive high speed. And so, yeah, because somebody told you, and the CEO is expecting you, and this expectation management is hard in the very first day. Yeah, and there's this glorious book, First 90 Days. Yeah, and you have your weapons in terms of the university degree and maybe some certificates or something. Yeah, and then you drive in and you think, should I tell them or should I just listen? What should I do? But just listen and adapt to the speed the team has, and then take the instruments and the methods they need first to maybe form a team, and then adapt to the situation, and then take the speed and then drive up to the situation. That's most important. That's what I had to learn first, because I'm a pioneer, I'm a driver, I have much energy. Yeah, and people had to learn that, especially in Germany, where people are very hesitating and try to keep the state of the art as long as possible. Yeah,
Yeah.
I always did it like the way we do it now, etc., etc. Yeah.
And you were right in the heart of what is the organizational development, what's the structure, how do we nurture talent across the board to not only adapt to the situation of the team, but also the market. What does the industry need? What's the market opportunities? And it's the balance between those things, right? Of an employee life cycle and how talent is developed throughout the period. Now, for the last, nearly 10 years, you've been independently doing this, I guess, with lots of different organizations, balancing academia and theory with real life, companies trying to figure this out. What are some of your observations of how you're seeing organizations and people preparing, structuring their organizational design, or ensuring that they can keep pace with what they need to in terms of the structure of how they manage talent or nurture talent?
That's a very good question. And I think there are, from my point of view, two decisions they have to make. As an organization, and people make the organizations, not the organization make people. and the DNA of an organization A is never similar to the organization B. So I can't look right or left and say, if there's a lack of talent, all the other organizations struggle with the same problem or issue. So I lay back and I wait for better times. So I can't do that, especially in German, but also in other countries. Everybody does that. And in 20 years ago, I always have it in my ear. So we have a lack of engineers, we have a lack of this technical engineers, blah blah blah. Now we have a lack of IT people, we have a lack of, now we knew it for years that we will have a lack of talents, and we have to do something against it. And it's no argument that also other people, other companies, also other organizations struggle with the same. We have to be responsible and find innovative solutions. And for instance, we have this, in Germany, we have this glorious system of Ausbildung. So find people from the very beginning, 16 years old or something. Maybe we can also offer something to people who are 56 and not only 16. Yeah. Nobody wants to talk about it. These people are too old, can't learn anything, they are too expensive, blah, blah, blah. We always find excuses. Don't find excuses, just do. That could be a decision. Yeah, other times, other solutions.
Yeah.
So that's first. And the second is, I always heard customer orientation. And I see it at your smile. You heard it too, yeah. Wherever I worked, customer orientation. And when I ask people in companies, who's your customer, who's your client, do you feel passionate about him or her? People don't know who their customers are, and what's the really issue or the bottleneck of their people is. Yeah. For example, I've worked for a pharmaceutical company, and people, especially in marketing sales, they didn't. Of course, there are people who are completely the way around, but in the mass, didn't identify with ill people, with patients. They didn't want to get in touch. Yeah, because they were happy to have a safe job, to be, in a nice office with a nice computer, with very smart people, yeah, to have safe money and to be very far away from the real world. That must change. And it's absolutely independent if you sell ice cream or drugs or a microphone or our wonderful books or whatsoever. Know your customer. That must be a decision. And I had a very wonderful medical leader. He was head of medical research. He told everybody who want to have a job in our company, first you have to go for 1 week into a hospital or in the elder care area or wherever and get in touch with our customer. And if you don't want that, you are wrong. That was gorgeous.
That's interesting, isn't it? In terms of being able to understand who we're serving. And I guess one of the challenges is how that customer then also changes. That we might have spent time with them, or I knew their challenges or their dreams or what they were looking for, perhaps a year ago, perhaps 5 years ago, perhaps 10 years ago. And maybe that shifted, but I haven't shifted in my understanding of it. And I've certainly, been in that situation myself. You get busy and you realize, wow, when was the last time I hung out with the audience that we're serving? And I'm still making decisions based on perhaps old knowledge, old experience, old information, and being able to speed up that feedback loop. So the feedback loop of what is going on, what is happening in any part of the organization, to inform decisions in real time. And again, that is part of, for some people, an adaptation. Oh no, we've got our 5-year strategy. We've got it all implemented. We're now just working to all of the timescales becoming much shorter around the planning cycle, around the strategic cycle. And I've noticed that that's unnerving for many experienced people to now be, you know, rethinking, re-strategizing, redoing
Sure.
regularly, which is
Sure.
exhausting. Rather, no, that's just done once a year or once every 3 years, and then we get the work done. Have you observed something similar? And if so, what are the sort of things that you yourself have been working on to support that?
I can give you a practical example. Yeah. So just imagine a box with treatment in it, so blisters or something. Yeah. And on the box and within there's this paper with descriptions how you could take it and don't take it with coffee or alcohol or blah 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 blah. But there are so many people who can't read. Yeah. Can't read, or maybe read in another language or whatever. Yeah. And I, in my last role, I was also had D&I, diversity and inclusion, in addition to my role of organizational development. And we had a working group, and there was this D&I award, always exclaimed, one in a year. Yeah. And I had a small team, and we thought about, and people think of, integrating LGBTQ people or this and that. And my mother was chronically ill, and sometimes this letter in the box of her treatment were very small, and she was humbling around, with her glasses and so on and so on. And I think, why not making a QR code, or at least a barcode, on the box of her treatment she can read in with her mobile, so there is a voice reading her how she can take the treatment, and give her maybe some, answering some Q&As. And we won this award. And since then, all over the world, our medical treatments are with this QR. Yeah, and you don't have to be, this is not rocket science, but close to a customer, close to a client, close to a patient, just with empathy and listening and looking. There are so many cool ideas, and they must be smart. It's not smart, it's just understanding how people live. Yeah, you can change, you can make the decision and change. Yeah, just by adapting. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's an additional small sign on the package. It doesn't cost anything. Yeah, you can change it if the treatment changes a little bit. Yeah, behind that there are 27 languages or something. It's fantastic.
And for those types of things that are easy to see the benefit, easy to implement, low risk in terms of the change being a fundamental shift of the organization, it's a value add. I can understand how those sorts of things could get, stakeholder buy-in, get it implemented and get it rolled out. I think what's challenging for organizations is when it fundamentally has to create a shift in the way that the organization is either thinking or implementing. So if we take examples, there's lots of them, of the big ones of where what they provide is no longer valuable, blockbusters, having things in physical versus streaming, or different industries that have shifted, is when it's fundamental to our past success, when we've been given an applause, it might have been a customer saying thank you, a check being written, or a promotion because of what we did. How have you found it when it's a very difficult shift to make, that needs perhaps more courage, more bravery, more foresight? How is that? How do you manage those more difficult decisions that are fundamentally maybe going to break up what they're familiar with?
Also have seen this also in the company I've worked for, and also within companies I worked with. Yeah. So in another company, they built very big machines as well for the kitchen, as well for big, how do you say, instruction areas. Yeah. They are based in Austria, but deliver for all over the world. Yeah. Export company. They had an HR and an IT area. Yeah, like everybody else has. But now they thought about maybe outsourcing the HR area because of, do they always do only contracts, and is it really worth it, etc., etc. That was the only the plan A. Plan B was, do we merge HR and IT because we want to have it data based? Yeah. Of course, HR people struggled with because all the job profiles would change. They should learn data literacy, etc., etc. At the end, we saw so many advantages for people to learn and upskill when we merge HR and IT. Yeah. Learning courses only to distribute when data literacy is correct. Yeah. Understanding demography, the learning curves, return on investment of courses, etc., etc. Talent management, IT based. You can see, yeah, including artificial intelligence, etc., etc. So that we didn't outsource HR to an external company where everybody, of course, would have and keep the job with the same profile, doing contracts, yeah, same job as useful, and so it wouldn't change anything. Or now learn, grow, accelerate, but merge with IT. So a new untapped field, yeah, you can imagine. People were accompanied for 18 months in this change project. Some people left because of fear. The others said, okay, we try at least. We had a very good approach, and we had a new HR IT company head. She came from outside, from a learning company. She was wonderful. She was a woman. Of course, she was a woman. And she had a very good empathy profile, not only EQ, but EQ, AQ, but EQ. And she was a very good adapter. Yeah, you would say in your language. And she kept all the people. Now this company is correlated to the market, is on #1 in the international market again. And they see they can not only be on the pole position, but keep this pole position again. Yeah. So of course, people are struggling, but when they are accompanied and the numbers are on the top, you can convince the top management. Of course, numbers are close to their heart, but on the other way, people need a company.
And to dig into that a little bit more,
Yeah.
so this, overarching idea of, right, let's merge two departments and benefit from those things, from HR becoming more data driven, data literate, and blend some of the knowledge experience inside IT. So you have this kind of ambition, this mandate, and then, as you said, all the messy middle, right? How do we get to that? And, do we buy it? Do we borrow it? Do we build it? And probably combinations, right? You talked about an external person coming in, helping through that. What were some of the key observations you had from how long it took? Did they use coaching? What were maybe some of the insights from the people that left? Was that, it was a right thing that you build that in as part of the plan? There will be people that don't fit within it. Just give us a little bit more of inside the detail, because I imagine many people listening are either going through it, been through it, or about to go through similar things, right? Where HR needs to become more data driven, where they need to have more IT and opportunities integrating AI, all these things in there. But that's a complex, project to do.
Sure.
So what were some of the, learning, some of the lessons from that, and some advice that you could give?
Sure. So thank you for the questions. I think it's a great opportunity. First, to give HR more visibility, because like in all the companies, it's always a little bit of a black box. Yeah, what is HR doing? Do they only contracts? Are there for me if there is some struggle with an employee? They are not available. They are only available in 3 months with special coaching. If I have an employee here, I have to do maybe to bring in a product into the market, but they don't support me. So things like that. Yeah, sometimes it's more blah blah, but at least there is this rumor about and
the
around
compliance and the basics. But now
things
we're
like
at a
that.
new level.
Things like that. So first, we had the whole company at the headquarter involved to ask them what would be the advantages to merge HR with most of the important areas in the company, which is tech and IT is involved in everything. Now, Hockeypack, yeah, so hand in hand, HR is everywhere with it. So everybody was quite excited because they say, wow, now we see more driving HR in the driver's seat, organizational development, not only contracting, but organizational development, transparency, needs-based instruments of HR. That could be a good thing. So that was. Then it was needs-based research. What do you really need from HR? We already do that, but it was not so transparent to the organization, like always. Yeah. So how many trainings do you need? How many coachings do you need? We always do it. Yeah. Here, see the numbers. I didn't know that. You already do this. Yeah. What is the return on the investment? So the cost of HR, return on investment. Yeah. So HR does not measure the return on investment of trainings, coachings, work shadowing, etc., because we don't have the measurement tangible. Yeah, that's always a kind of an issue. And IT offered to deliver some methodologies here. And that was the key for the organization to say, okay, you deliver and we deliver return on investment measures and make the numbers transparent. And we make something like a radar for everything HR does. You know, like if the stock market is popping up on your display, yeah, DAX is going up and down, Nasdaq is going up and down, HR is up and down, yeah. So like that. So everybody has the numbers of HR every day on the radar. Yeah, how many employees do we need? How good are we in terms of university marketing? How is the plan for next year? Are there any open positions, foreseeable open positions? Blah 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 blah. Exciting news for the company, yeah. And that was the first anchor, the first key. And the next thing was, of course, HR as an area. People were struggling with that, because what does that mean for me? Do I lose the position? Where do I work? Where's my workplace? Do I have to shift my workplace? I love my desk. I love my chair. Things like that. Yeah, we had to talk with everybody. Yeah, who will be my new boss and who will be the hierarchy? So in these terms of view, we made the decision to be very open and honest to everything we can promise, we can't promise, and what can people design with. Yeah, how could be the organization look like, and how do you want to have it for yourself? What can you design for yourself? And we gave people coaching to design it with the organization. And that was a second key. Wow, I'm responsible for myself. Okay, there's nobody telling me, so I will be able to tell it myself. Yeah, where do I want to sit? What would be best for me? Oh, for me, it's okay. Tell me. Yeah, I go wherever you want me. Other were very strictly in terms of, oh, I want to sit at the window in this building, in this area. I want to be close to my customer. I want to be, I want to sit near you because I was always sitting near you. Things like that. Yeah. Yeah, and people designed their area. It was very nice to see. And others were strictly against, but a very few only. Yeah, one hand, and they left. I see that always in change
Yeah.
process.
And what sort of, in either that story or in others, the redesigning of the role? Because one thing is, who am I with? Where am I sat? What is my responsibilities? The other part is the job roles and job descriptions often evolve. What I came in to do is very different to now what I'm doing, which is going to be very different to what I want to be doing in a year's time.
Yeah.
And that was that also an opportunity to redesign the sort of roles, the sort of Lego bricks of, I want to make up my role by, I don't want this, but I want that, and I want this. Was there flexibility around that? And do you think that's important for organizations moving forwards, to have more flexible, co-created design of a role versus here's a
Yeah.
job description, often a unicorn that never really exists, and try
Yeah.
and do it? What's your view around that?
Of course, the flexibility. And the third key was, it's not only who has to be flexible, it's the whole organization. Yeah, it's not only you, which will be a little bit stressed in this process, but the whole organization has change processes, transformation, and so, because then it's this question, why it's only me who has to be in longer working hours, why it's only me who has this process, etc. Yeah, this only me question. But the CEO was crystal clear in his speech he gave to say, okay, we have a big transformation, this merge HR IT. So everybody in this merge has longer working hours, or has to make additional protocols or learn new systems, etc., etc. But everybody in the organization now has to learn, where to fill in the holiday requests, etc., etc. We have to learn new forms. So everybody accompanies and supports this process. So everybody has to give support. And
all in together.
That was the third key. Yeah, not only we and everybody else is out of this process and has nice and longer hours, maybe in the cafeteria or somewhere. Yeah, and only we are the stupid people who may have to manage that, but everybody is involved. And that was good. Yeah, that was like we are all sitting in this boat and have to struggle with that. Yeah.
And in your opinion, as we sort of wrap around this, do you see this happening as an irregular situation, i.e. key points and moments where, right, there's a big transformation needed, it's a project, it will be done and done, then we go back to, running with that new system? Or do you see it as, this is now the way things are going to be, and it's going to be continually, okay, if it's not IT and HR, it'll be another thing that's going on and another thing that's going on, that's going to be the new way that people need to be evolving in the future of work? Because often it would be, the storming, norming, forming kind of format. But I see at the moment so many organizations that just rapidly go through that so quickly that norming never really exists, because it's always evolving. Have you seen the same thing happening?
Totally. You are this wonderful book, Eliyahu Goldratt, The Goal, with a theory of constraints. After one bottleneck and the solution, there comes the next bottleneck. In an organization, it's always like that. If you have an issue, maybe in the production area, and you solved it, there's another problem maybe in the marketing or in the design or in the research or in the development or somewhere. It's always because it's in the system. If you change one element, all the other elements are in one way included. Yeah, so there's never a perfect state in an organization. There's never it's done and everything works smoothly and perfectly state in an organization, because first it's people and internal factors, yeah, but there are also external factors. If internally everything is done, then externally the markets, there's not only one market, there are markets changing, the environment is changing, as we all know, yeah, weather, climate, things. Then there's something like a virus, maybe a next a COVID or something is popping up, yeah. Then the politics, yeah, are changing, not only in the US with a new president, but also in Germany. We are the third biggest market. Yeah, then there are so many things are popping up. So internally, externally, and how do people react? Then there are things like innovation, yeah, with the artificial intelligence and things. So we always have to adapt, and there will be the next bottleneck we have to struggle with, yeah. So, by the way, it's one of the books I'm absolutely inspired with. Yeah, Eliyahu Goldratt, The Goal and the Theory of Constraints. Yeah. By the way, I'm also a strategic consultant. I learned that from scratch, and I'm working with that very intensively.
That framework, yeah.
Yeah.
And you expressed so many things there in terms of all of these situations of change, political change, market change, environmental, economic, teams, and these bottlenecks. And whilst that's been true throughout history, we're now seeing it happen on the condensed time scale. And ever increasing that, yes, a bottleneck will happen, but it might have popped it and reared its head of big ones every few years, as opposed to every other month, maybe in some organizations, or in a week.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested, as we come to the final part of the conversation, in terms of what are the things that either you're doing or you're seeing the best organizations do to maintain a level of vitality as an individual, as a human, when there's so much of that can be overwhelming, right? It can be overwhelming. It impacts our health mentally and physically. To remain not just I'm coping, but actually I'm happy, I'm thriving, I enjoy this, when there's so much energy, energy, pressure, opportunity. What are the things you do on a practical sense, Johanna, to stay healthy in that new world of work? And perhaps what are you observing in other organizations to do that as well?
Thank you for this great question. I mean, we only can understand how we as a human being work, yeah, and maybe if another one moves perfectly and smoothly through all these changes, and I wonder why I don't, it's because it's another person. Yeah, so I always have to care for myself and also demark sometimes. Yeah, empathy is good, demarcation is also very important.
Essential.
Sometimes we underestimate that. Yeah, I can't change this situation. I have to care for the things I can change. And where I really see that in an amazing way is a business partner I'm honored to work with is LinkedIn. Yeah, because we make many video courses in terms of decision making together, and we spend long hours together, and it's absolutely perfect. And they have this growth mindset. Yeah, growth mindset means don't stuck in your issues, learn, adapt, grow, help others so that they can help themselves, etc., etc. Yeah, and it's fantastic because every time I step into this company, and it's more than once a year, I see that something change. Yeah, maybe the colors of the walls change, or maybe there is a shout out on the wall. It's changing. Also on the ladies and gents on the toilets. Yeah, there are some things, some inspirational pictures or something. So it's gorgeous. Yeah, and they step out, and then work is cut. So no mobile phones from work. They don't do work in the evening hours or something. of course, if they are in home office, it's something else. Yeah, but they care for their children. They have learning hours on their working budget, so it's gorgeous. Yeah, so they learn and grow, and they demark. So what I can't change, I don't try to change. What I can change, I change, and I take others to help me.
I like that. This idea of demarcation and boundaries.
Yeah.
What are the boundaries that are set? For me individually, what am I taking responsibility of my
Right.
boundaries? What's
Right.
acceptable,
Right.
what's not? And
Yeah.
what are we doing if we're leading teams? What's acceptable and what's not? And if we're
Right.
leading organizations, what's acceptable and what's
Yeah.
not?
And I
From
can see it with my
4-day work weeks to no mobile phones to these things, I think
yeah.
they're so essential, Johanna, where we could be fully consumed by the task list. You know,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Fantastic. And you have a dog, I have a dog. You have two dogs, by the way.
Yes.
I have one. And I see if I have late working hours, then she comes to me, my girl dog, yeah, and she takes the phone off my hands very softly, very smoothly.
Yeah.
And then she jumps on my lap and she tells me, now
Okay.
stop.
Now's enough, Johanna. Yeah.
Now it's enough, yeah. And I have to smile at her. Then she licks
Give
my
you the,
cheek, and then it's okay, yeah. And then it's dog time, and
yeah.
then it's private time, and then it's family time, and then it's okay, yeah. Also, animals can give you a very close contact to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I remember years ago watching somebody do a keynote where they were talking about from Oliver Twist, and where he goes up and he asks for more, please, more, please, more, please. And in society and humans, we don't have a button that says enough. I've had
Right.
enough.
Yeah.
It's constantly, oh, more, put on more responsibility, more tasks, to just say, I've done enough today. I've done enough. And be content and live in that paradox, in that duality that I am content, I have done enough, yet tomorrow I'll take on some more, but not right now. And so I think that's essential for us in this, VUCA world, where there is so much uncertainty, there's so much change happening. We can't predict things in the way we used to predict them. So we have to be comfortable in that situation. And part of that is knowing our boundaries. What a great final piece. Now, I asked this final question to every guest, and one day maybe it'll make some kind of interesting, blog or project or book. And it's around curiosity, Johanna. And it is, when was the last time you did something for the first time, and what was it?
Today, this morning, this morning, yeah. I had a new recipe with coffee, yeah. I love coffee, by the way, yeah. And this morning I had coconut oil in my coffee, because everybody tells me you have to put coconut oil in your coffee. It's the glow coffee, and you have to judge. Can you see it? Do I glow?
Wonderful, wonderful. So it was, you observed others doing something that influenced you to give something a try.
Yeah, I gave it a try. I
Yeah.
can't say that I really like it. It's not my favorite,
Mm-hmm.
but at least I can try
A
to
willingness.
judge afterwards. Yeah. Don't
Okay.
judge before, just after. At least you have to try to judge. Yeah.
Wonderful. I love that. So if people want to get in touch with you, Johanna, if they're interested in perhaps some of the work that you do in the Decision Making Institute, to understand your own, readiness assessment around focusing on decision making, or even just your work in general, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So I think LinkedIn is everywhere. It's also in English. Yeah, our VUCA readiness assessment is also in English. So it's on on my website linked. It's also on the institute page. It's linked. So that could be the easiest way, or even more easy is to write me an old school email, jd at drjohannadahm.com. It's the easiest way to catch me.
Perfect. We'll add them into the show notes. I'm going to thank Olga for the introduction and hanging out together. It's been a delight. I love doing these. Thank you so much.
Me
and
too.
enjoy the rest of your day. I know you've already done your dog walk because it's so hot today. Get it done well. I hope you've got a great day ahead, and I'm deeply appreciative of your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Do you have the level of adaptability to survive and thrive the rapid changes ahead? Has your resilience got more comeback than a yo-yo? Do you have the ability to unlearn in order to reskill, upskill and break through? Find out today and uncover your adaptability profile and score, your AQ. Visit AQai.io to gain your personalized report across 15 scientifically validated dimensions of adaptability. For a limited time, enter code PODCAST65 for a complimentary AQME assessment. AQai, transforming the way people, teams and organizations navigate change. Thank you for listening to this episode of Decoding AQ. Please make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast directory, and we'd love to hear your feedback. Please do leave a review and be sure to tune in next time for more insights from our amazing guests.